Flashback to 8 months after the outbreak. We see a younger Miles doing sword training nearby a big river. We see a few deadheads are getting close to camp. As he waits for them to get closer, and he walks over to them and stabs them in the head, one each at a time. Later on, we see him sitting by the river. As the sun is setting, we see him sitting there wiping the blood off his sword. As we see Dave walks up to him, and Miles says, "So how was patrol?" Dave says, "Same as the last few nights. Quiet." Miles says, "Is it just me or does it feel like there's less of those things as time goes on? Maybe someone out there found something to cure this disease." Dave says, "Nah, there ain't no cure. Just like my dad used to tell me, there's no cure for madness. You can cover it up with bow and wrapping paper, but it's still the same thing inside." Miles says, "I know. I just wonder sometimes. If we weren't in the situation that we're in right now, if the world hadn't gone to shit, where would we be right now?" Dave says, "I know where I'd be. In a 4x4 shithole with prisoners and prison guards up my ass all day telling me what to do. What about you?" Miles says, "With all the shit I used to do, I'd probably be in prison with you, buddy." Dave laughs, and Dave says, "So, if you could go back in time, before the outbreak, what would you change? What would you do?" "You know, myself, I'd probably wait things out a few more months. Let the world fall apart, instead of spending the last couple months I had in a boring-ass prison cell." Miles laughs a bit, and Dave says, "What about you? What would you do?" Miles looks sad and says, "I'd put my family down." Dave says, "No, I was talking about the old world." Miles says, "I know." As he looks sad, Miles gets up and walks away, as Dave sits there wondering what he's talking about. And now currently, we see Miles laying awake. As he looks upset, he says, "I'm gonna make it right, Monica. I promise you." As he looks out to the night sky, sad and devastated. Back with Ashley. We see her running through the woods as she backs up against a tree. We see a few apostles in the background looking for her. As she looks at her bloody finger, she looks angry. Then one of them comes up behind her. Then she swings back at him, and the apostle gets his stomach cut open as his guts spill out. Then she cuts his throat and kills him. She then takes the apostle's knife as she throws it and hits one of them in the eye, and it goes through the other side of his skull, as Ashley runs forward to kill Bishop and the rest. Haley, Luke, Sydney, Nathan, and the others are running through the woods, and they stop for a second, and Luke still looks to be in bad shape, and Vivian is still badly injured after getting stabbed. Haley then pulls out a bottle of water and says, "Here, Vivian, drink. Can't have you falling down." Luke says, "Ashley, we can't just leave her back there on her own." Haley says, "I'm sorry, Luke. Look, I'm with you, okay? But we just started something big. She made her choice, okay? And we gotta move. We gotta get back home. We gotta get back to the others. Get our people ready for what they're planning. That's what Ashley said we should do, and that's what we're gonna do. Sydney helps Luke up and says, it's okay. We'll make this right soon enough. That's a promise. As we see them keep moving. Back with Ashley. We see her slice up 2 more apostles as she makes it back to the overpass. She climbs up the hill to kill Bishop. We then see Bishop on the overpass putting his sword through his dead men's skull so that they don't turn. But then he hears, "Looks like it's just me and you, asshole." Bishop turns around to see Ashley covered in blood as he laughs and says, a sword duel. It'll be my fucking pleasure. As he stands there ready and says, "So where are your friends? They leave you behind just because they don't trust you?" Ashley says, "They're gone. Don't think about them. It's me you're gonna have to worry about." She then swings at him and misses. He swings back and misses as we see they're fighting back at each other and they're very evenly matched. Ashley says, "I trusted you. I believed in you. I fucking saved you." Bishop says, "Well, here, let me save you from a group that'll live a short-term life." He kicks her down and tries to stab her. She kicks him in the leg as he falls to the ground. They then hear the sound of the dead. As they then turn around, we see several deadheads running towards them. The dead get in the way of both of them. As they have to scatter, each of them fight off several of the deadheads. The horde overwhelms the overpass. Ashley clears a path and runs away as she leaves and runs away for her life before the dead kill her. And as Bishop is left for dead to fight all of these deadheads on his own. Back in Washington, D.C., we see the deadhead's hands reaching in from chained up doors, as we see Rivers watching this, standing guard. And Tom and Dave walk up to her, and Tom says, thanks for taking the last couple hours of my shift, Rivers." Rivers says, "Oh yeah, don't mention it." Miles walks up to them and says, "Hey, we getting going soon?" Dave says, "Yeah, in a few minutes. Today's objective, we make it to the warehouse. It's just a few blocks down from here. We get the supplies that we need for the repair. Then we'll put it in the back of the truck that we'll take there on our trip. We'll go home by the end of the day, hopefully." Tom says, "What about Kezia? If she's still alive out there, she'll need our help." Dave says, "We gotta get home first, alright? Roger, he needs a doctor. Once we get back, we'll update everyone on this apostle bullshit. Make sure they know what's coming, alright? Then I'll make the trip myself if I have to, maybe with Miles by my side, and we'll bring her back, safe and sound." Miles says, "Works for me. If she's still alive, she's definitely gonna need our help." Roger walks up to them and says, "Hey, how did everyone sleep?" Rivers says, "Only a few hours, cause Tommy boy over here had to get his beauty sleep too." Tom says, "Well, I see someone woke up on the wrong side of their sleeping bag." And Dave says, "Rog, how's the pain today?" Roger says, "It's better today. I'll be good to go." Dave says, "You sure?" Roger says, "You know, I've been out there in horrible storms with over 10 wounds on my legs and on my arms out in Afghanistan, barely holding on. And even then, I saved 8 men that day, Luke being one of them. So this sounds like a damn good day to me." Tom says, "My man. Well, Snoop, let's go, buddy." We see Snoop run up to them, and Dave and all of them stand at the door, and Dave says, "No guns. We need the bullets, and we don't need these running fuckers right on our asses." Tom says, "Alright, we ready?" River says, "Well, we got a dog that looks like he wants to bash in some reanimated brains in, so I think we're the most ready motherfuckers here." Dave says, "Alright," and he removes the chain from the door and says, 3, 2, 1, go! The door opens. Over 20 deadheads run in towards them, as Miles cuts through a few of them as heads go flying. Tom slices a couple, and Dave and the others then fight their way through. As they kill the dead in front of them, Tom looks down the alleyway and sees more deadheads from far, and he sees them starting to sprint at them. Tom says, "Go, go, 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 go!" They run towards the truck, and Tom grabs Snoop as they run into the truck and get in. We see them pulling into an abandoned parking garage, as they then park the truck, and Dave gets out and says, "Alright, here's the plan. Rivers, you stay here with Roger. Meanwhile, Miles and Tom, you guys come with me. We all go in there, clear the warehouse, make sure there's no surprises in there waiting for us. If we're not back in an hour, you come, but hopefully this won't take that long. And besides, the less Roger's on his feet right now, the better." River says, "Okay." We see she looks at Tom in particular when she says, "Just be careful, okay?" Tom says, "Yes, ma'am." Dave says, "All right, let's go." And Tom says, "Snoop, stay, boy." As they then split off. But as they walk off, we see the shadow of someone watching them from the floor above. Back with Haley and the others. We see them walking through the woods. We see Vivian isn't doing so good, and Nathan says, "Haley, we gotta stop for a bit. We can't keep up like this." Haley looks out into the distance and sees an old diner from far, and she says, "There's an old diner up ahead. Can you make it there?" Vivian says, Yeah, I think so." As they keep moving, they then enter the diner. As we see Nathan helps Vivian sit down, Haley says, "All right, there's got to be something in here we can use to stop the bleeding." She then goes out back, and Nathan looks at Vivian's wound, and he says, "You all right?" Vivian says, "Well, I'll say this. It was nice finally getting my hands on that son of a bitch. Even if this was my last fight." Nathan says, Hey, don't say things like that. Okay, you're gonna be fine." Vivian says, "Nathan, look at us. Several of us need medical attention. We're badly banged up, and I'm slowing you down for Christ's sake. You may not have a choice." Nathan says, "A choice to what? Leave you behind? Is that it?" Vivian says, "It's what you may have to do." Nathan says, "No, it won't come down to that. I won't let it." Vivian says, "You may not have a choice." Nathan looks upset as he sees how badly she's bleeding. Back in Washington, D.C., we see Dave, Tom, and Miles walking through the abandoned streets of Washington. Dave says, "Just 2 more blocks." Miles says, "All right." Tom says, "Well, it looks like Roger Boy there is going to be pulling through after all. Thank goodness." Dave says, "Yep, he's a true military soldier, I'll tell you that." Tom says, "He is. I wonder if it's too soon to call him Captain Hook. Or maybe Handinator. Or One-Hand Jerker." Dave says, "I dare you to call him the last one." Tom says, "Well, Rivers happened to love the idea, so..." Dave says, "Yeah, well, she's just as fucked as you are." They then see a group of dead down the road. As they slowly turn around, Dave pulls out his gun, and then the dead start running after them. Tom says, "Shit, we gotta go." We see they're running down this old neighborhood, and Tom looks back and sees them going down another road, and he says, "Oh, thank God. I think we're good. We lost those fuckers. I just can't believe how hard it is to get past those dead things now." Dave says, "Yeah, it's getting harder and harder to stay away from them. Evolution is definitely a thing, my friend." Tom says, "Yeah, you could say that again." Miles then sees an old sign that catches his eye as he sees it and looks rather upset. And Dave says, "Hey, Miles, come on, just a few more blocks away, man." Miles looks horrified and says, I need a minute." We see he starts walking towards this house, and Dave and Tom follow him. We see an old mailbox as we see he slowly walks up to the porch. As we see the porch is half destroyed and there are blood stains all around. As we see him walking up to the house and he knocks at the door. Then 3 deadheads are revealed to be inside. As we see a mother and her 2 kids. Miles starts crying as he says, Monica, I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I should have come sooner. I know I should have." Dave and Tom look sad, and Dave says, "Is this them?" Miles looks at them and nods and sits on the porch. Meanwhile, his dead family are growling at the door, and he says, "I was involved with some very bad people before the world turned into what it is now." Tom says, "So this happened before?" Miles says, "Right in front of me. But I did what I always do. I run away from my own goddamn problems. Run away from the things that matter. My family died right in front of me. Barely a few hours before, the city went dark and the dead started coming back. But when it mattered, I couldn't put them down. And with the life I was living, I brought this all on them. And I couldn't cope with that, so I ran." Dave says, "Hey, you came back. Maybe in some way you were meant to come back here today." Miles is crying and says, "Why?" And Dave says, "So I could help you put them to rest." He gives him his sword, and Dave says, "I never got a chance to put my family down, but you can. You go in there and you do what you wanted to do back then, and you make this all right. Get your closure." Miles says, "After all this time, how could I just leave them like this?" Dave says, "Because you weren't ready then. But I can see. I know you are ready. I know you're ready now." Miles takes the sword and gets up as he walks towards the door and opens it as he stabs them all in the head and puts them down. Later on, we see Miles, Dave, and Tom digging 3 graves for them as we see them putting their names on them. And it says, Melanie, his daughter, Chase, his son, and Monica, his wife, as he buries them, and Miles sits there and prays for them, as Dave and Tom are standing behind him. And Tom says, "You know, sometimes you forget how unfair this world can be. It just rips people away without even giving you a heads up. Fairness is truly gone, Dave." Dave then walks up to Miles and says, "You did it, brother. You gonna be okay?" Miles says, "I'll be fine. Thanks for having my back for all these years, brother." Dave says, "It was an easy job with you, my friend." They hug, and Tom says, "We better make our destination soon before the others come looking." Miles says, Yeah, let's go." As they then leave, we focus on the 3 graves as we see Miles has left his past behind. Back with Rivers and Roger. We see them sitting in the back of the truck waiting for the others to get back. Rivers says, "So how's it feel?" "Must feel strange." Roger says, "You know, it still feels like I have both hands. And then I reach for something and I'm like, holy shit, where the hell is it?" Rivers chuckles, and then she sees a quick shadow of someone through the rearview mirror, watching them from far. Roger then looks, and Rivers pulls out her gun, and very quietly, Roger says, "What is it?" Rivers says, "Someone's in here." They both get out of the truck. As we see Snoop barking, Roger says, "Shh, boy, shh." Rivers says, "Stay." Roger says, "What, me or the dog?" Rivers says, "Both of you, fuck off." Rivers starts walking down this parking garage to see who's there. As she's walking through, we see Roger pulls out a knife as Rivers is walking through. She then sees an old teddy bear from what looks like a child. As she then sees dried up blood in a baby seat in the back of one of the cars. We see that horrifies her. As she then turns around and gets pistol whipped by someone and falls to the ground. Rivers says, "Well, nice to meet you too there, dick." Roger comes running in, and 2 of them point their guns towards him too, and a woman says, "Put that knife down, now!" Rivers nods at him, and he does it. As one of the men says, "Colin, we caught 2 of them." Colin walks up to Rivers and clicks his gun and says, "1 is good, 2 is even better." Now let's dig deep and find out who these intruders really are, shall we? Back with Haley's group. We see her out back of the diner as she hears this really eerie sound of static as she goes back there and finds a whole family in the back who have looked to have died recently. As we see, this is getting to her because of all the families she's lost. As we see a message written on the chalkboard saying, "If you see this, we're probably dead. If Devin sees this, tell him we're sorry. We wish we could have made it back to see you." Haley just sits there looking at what the world has turned into. She then finds some bandages and some gauze that are still left over and a picked over first aid kit as she smiles and looks at the family and says, "Thank you." As we see Nathan and the others hear Haley coming as Haley walks out and Nathan says, "The place clear?" Haley says, "Oh, more than clear. I found bandages. Found a first aid kit there in the back too." Luke says, "Seriously? How in the hell would that still be around, not picked over after all these years?" Haley says, "Yeah, I thought the same thing. There was a family back there that had died. They had this with them. Although I'm really not sure where the hell they would have gotten all this from. Either way, it's going to buy you enough time so we can get back." Vivian says, "Thanks, Haley. You really didn't have to. I mean, I'm literally nobody to you. Me and Nathan and Rivers literally just showed up here. I wouldn't have blamed you if you wanted to leave me behind for your own people." Haley says, "I don't leave my people behind. You're one of my people. That's how Lincoln saw it, and that's how I see it. You're just as important to me as anybody else in this room. That's what my husband always did when he was running things. And no matter how bleak things may have looked, he never left anybody behind." As we see her help Vivian, and she says, "We're gonna head back for home in 15 minutes. Everyone rest up. We should be back by sundown." As we then see them leaving, we see another Ziltramite sign as we then see a few bottles of spray paint on the ground next to the sign, as Haley and the others walk across the train tracks. Back with Rivers. Rivers and Roger are held at gunpoint in a small little cage in the parking garage by Colin and his people. One of the guys whispers, "Colin, it was your brother. It's up to you in the end." Rivers is standing at the fence and says, "Can one of you please tell me what the fuck your deal is with us? Fuck, if you want our shit, just take it. Leave us be." Colin looks angry and says, "Don't you worry. You'll get your turn. Although now that I seem to have captivated your attention, let's get right to it. Your people murdered 2 of ours last night on the road. You killed them like they were nothing. One of them was my brother, who I love very much. Me and my men found what was left of him earlier. There wasn't much left to see. So you're both going to tell me, why did you kill them? Where do you come from? And who do you answer to? What's your motive here? And what are you doing in the city?" River says, "Look, okay, I get you're feeling a lot of stress and anger right now, okay? But I need you to just listen to me. We didn't kill anybody, okay? We're just a regular group of people that just came here to get some supplies that we need. That's it. This doesn't have to end ugly." Colin says, "Everything ends ugly, ma'am. That's why it ends. You know how many people are still living in the city?" Rivers doesn't answer and he says, "None. The place is obliterated. There isn't a single soul left in here. It's been that way for a long time. Now my brother gets killed by raiders, and then the next day I find you 2 hiding out in here nearby the same street that it happened." Roger says, "Well, ain't it a fucking small world after all?" River says, "Roger, calm down. Look, I know you don't want to trust us, okay? Rightfully so." Roger says, "I'll take your heads off soon enough. You have 5 more minutes to let me the hell out of this cage." River says, "Roger, shut up. You're still not thinking straight, just shut up. I've got this." Colin says, Actually you don't. And either way, you're going to tell me everything I want to know. Because you're not getting out. You're nothing but a rat in a cage." River says, "Rat, huh? Okay. Well, how's this? We've got a lot of people out there searching the city right now. And they're going to come checking in soon. And if you kill either one of us, or both of us for that matter, You'll have an even worse target on your back than these raiders that killed your brother. Trust me on that. But if you let us walk here today, we'll act like this never happened. Right, Roger? Roger doesn't answer and says, fuck, whatever. Colin says, and why would I believe a word you say? River says, dude, look at us. You have a guy with one hand and a fucked up brain. You got a dog over here that's high out of his mind, and a blonde chick with a leather jacket. I mean, how much more generic can you get? Colin then slowly starts putting his gun down and says, lower your guns. Lower your guns. His people drop them, and he says, they didn't do it. And Rivers looks relieved and says, thank you. Although, for our people's sake, and Christ, for your own people's safety, who did do this? Colin starts breaking down a bit and says, these psychos dressed in black. They wore these lit up like neon style masks. And they just came in there and killed them. For no apparent reason. I just want to avenge my brother, if it's the last thing I do. Rivers says, I can relate. I have a brother too. At least, I used to before these people attacked us. A little while back, they killed our whole camp. I know what you're feeling. I just don't get why they would have killed your brother. The only reason why the apostles do what they do is because there's usually an enemy of theirs that they're trying to get rid of. Trying to get revenge for the people that they lost. But they just randomly killed your brother last night? Something doesn't make sense here. Bishop doesn't attack without a reason. As they all look a bit on edge, and Rivers says, so how many of you are there? Colin says, you're looking at us. We had groups before. But they all fell at one point or another. But honestly, I'm glad we met some good people again. And in return for our not so nice behavior, we can offer you and your friends some assistance to get out of the city. Rivers and Roger look at each other as we hear Snoop barking, and she says, well, looks like he thinks so. As they all get in the back of the truck and leave to go meet up with the others, as we then see there's an apostle watching them from far. We then see an apostle walking up to a rooftop, and they say, Apostle James. James turns around and says, you lazy fucks finally find something? The apostle says, we've received word from back home. Ashley's gone. Seems like she took Luke with her and Bishop is going to track her down. James says, well, that's just fucking great. Now, did you find anything or not? The apostle says, well, we found a truck heading towards the park. Looks to be at least 7 of them. James says, some road friends, I presume. Sounds like fun. The apostle says, sir, this is a big uncertainty. James says, I used to be scared of uncertainty. Now I get a high out of it. These people are defectors of the Kingstonville community, and I promised my brother I'd update them on everything that's gone on the past few days. That's why I told you to bring more heavy artillery from the bunker. It's time for them to feel the consequences of their actions themselves. Back with Dave, Tom, and Miles. We see them walking up to the warehouse as Dave says, all right, me and Tom go in. Miles keeps watch out here. I'll radio the others, tell them we're here. Dave and Tom go in as we see them make a little bit of noise at the door to alert any deadheads that may be inside. We see a couple of them as Dave and Tom shoot them down, and Tom says, let's get what we came for, shall we? We see Rivers, Roger, and Colin as his people park on the roof of a parking garage nearby. And Rivers looks out with binoculars and sees the warehouse from across the street, and she says, okay, me and Roger and a few of your guys will go down there and help. And we'll load this shit in the back of the truck? Easy peasy. Colin gives her the keys and says, stay icy down there, alright? They go down as we see Colin and 2 other of his people with him, and Colin says, Rebecca, you cover the back, I'll cover the front. Rebecca says, got it, sir. Dave and Tom are walking through, and Tom looks at all the metal bar and wall pieces and says, oh man, this'll work wonders. We'll take it all. Alright, radio Rivers, tell her it's safe to come down. Dave then radios Rivers. As we see her driving, she picks it up and says, Tom, you there? Dave says, yeah, it's Dave. Look, we found the warehouse. We'll need that truck ASAP. Rivers says, cool, I'm on my way. Side note, we found a few new alliances in the city. Dave looks concerned and says, what kind of alliances? Rivers says, ones we may need. Over and out. Dave says, "Oh, fucking Rivers, god damn it." "Well, Tom, looks like we got some more friends in the city after all." "Jesus Christ." Tom says, "Cool beans." Rivers is driving as Roger looks out the window up top. As he sees a brick is thrown and Rivers takes a quick left. As we see the apostles are trying to run them off the road. Rivers says, "That's them. They found us." We see their tires get shot up as we see them get run off the road. They all get out of the truck and start firing back. Some of Colin's men cover for Rivers as she grabs Snoop and backs up against an old taxi. As we see them getting shot at, Rivers shoots 2 of them in the head and backs up against the car. As more are firing at them, we see her say, "We gotta move. On foot. The warehouse is just down the block. We gotta make a run for it. You guys go, okay? I'll cover you." Roger says, "No fucking way. We leave here together." Rivers says, "There's no other way." She picks up her walkie and says, "Dave, this is Rivers. We're under attack. I repeat, we're under attack." Tom says, "No." He grabs the walkie from Dave's hand and says, "Rivers, where are you?" Tom looks very scared for her, and she says, I'm half a block away. The apostles are trying to kill us. We gotta..." She cuts out, and Tom looks pissed and says, "Hang on, baby, I'm coming." Dave sees how much Tom cares about her, and Dave loads his gun and says, "Well, what are we doing here? Let's save her." As they run out to go save them. Rivers overhears this on the other end of the walkie and smiles as she protects Snoop. And then, out of nowhere, apostles are getting sniped one by one. Rebecca is on the other side of the rooftop as we see Rivers and the others start capping off apostles to help her. Colin is looking out as he says to Rebecca, "Go, they may need you down there." Rebecca says, "No, I can't just leave you do this alone." Colin says, "Rebecca, they may need you down there." Rebecca says, "All right, I'll do it, sir." As she leaves the roof, we see Colin is looking out with the rifle. As he sees Dave, Miles, and Tom running, as he then says, "What the?" Out of nowhere, he hears one of the guys behind him gets his throat slit. As we then reveal James with a bloody knife. As James knocks Colin to the ground and he says, "Funny how quickly pussies die when they're the only ones getting their junk caved in." Colin then tries using his rifle against him, but James knocks it out of his hands and the rifle falls off the roof. James and Colin start fighting each other. As we see Colin draw a knife, James does the same as Colin says, You fucking killed him. You killed my brother, you son of a bitch!" James says, "Well, not all brothers are supposed to live together." Colin swings at James, but he misses every time. James says, "Oh, too slow there, old man. So what are we gonna do? Just sit up here and tongue each other on the tippity top of the fucking rooftop, or we're gonna get to business, motherfucker?" Colin then kicks him in the leg, and James falls. He tries stabbing him multiple times, but James is too fast for him. Meanwhile, Rebecca is running down the stairs as she makes it to the last floor. We see 3 apostles standing at the door, making sure she can't leave. She then shoots them all within a second and says, "Fucking stragglers." She then sees several deadheads at the end of the hall that start running towards her as she quickly runs out of the building and locks them in there. Meanwhile, she gets away, but then the dead hear all the fighting on the roof and start running up the stairs in a big group. James then stabs Colin as Colin goes down. We then see the dead coming up to the roof as James sees this and smiles and says, "What an easy fucking win." As Colin is left for dead, we see James gets on an old zip line and gets ready. We see the dead have made it to the roof and they break down the door. James jumps as he goes all the way to the other side of the zip line. Meanwhile, a stabbed Colin is left there to die. Rivers and Roger are firing back against the apostles. Rivers sees that she doesn't have any bullets left, and Roger says, "Yeah, me too." They both look worried, but then several apostles end up getting shot in the head as we see Dave, Miles, and Tom come in and start shooting them. Rivers smiles, and Tom picks her up, and he says, "I'm here. We gotta go now." Dave runs out of ammunition and reloads. An apostle is about to take a shot at him, and then we see Rebecca shoots the apostle and says, "Sup, guys? I assume you're Rivers' friends?" She then sees Rivers and says, "Yep." Dave says, "Let's get the hell out of here. They start running away down the road together, away from the apostles. We see James make it to the last remaining 10 apostles he has and says, "You get them all?" He sees his dead men and says, "You fucking idiots. We take a left, we cut those fuckers off, and we kill them." They then run after them to finish them off. Dave, Rivers, Tom, and the others are all running down the street as they then turn a corner to see James and his men standing there. James says, well, time to go home. And considering we're already halfway to hell, this won't change a thing." Dave says, "I should have killed you." James says, "Oh, you have no idea what not killing me did for someone very special to you." Dave looks angry and says, "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" James says, "Well, what goes around comes around. Now I can see we all wasted our bullets back there, but fear not. I'll be happy to open you up and gut you like a fucking pig, like I did Colin." He pulls out his knife, and then apostles out of nowhere start getting picked off as some behind him start getting killed. We then see Ashley come in with her 2 swords as she starts slicing up the apostle one after another. Dave then sees their chance and they help her as they all start fighting the apostles off together. James sees Ashley kill his men right in front of him, and she then stands there ready as we see everyone fighting behind them. And Ashley said, "You did it your way. You got apostles killed. I would say Bishop's gonna kill you for this, but you're not gonna have to worry about that anymore." She swings at him and then cuts him right on the arm, twice. James says, "The adrenaline. It's so damn inspiring." Ashley then says, "You lied to me for years. You and Bishop. You're right. You're not like them. You're fucking worse." They fight as they swing at each other back and forth. We then see a Jeep come in as we see Apostle Cheryl come in and shoot up multiple of Colin's men and shoots Dave in the arm. As they all take cover, James and a few of his apostles get in and drive away as all of our characters watch them drive away as they stand there covered in blood as we hear James yells, "Till we meet again." Everyone looks pissed as we see one of the apostles is dying but still alive, and Dave says, "Ugh, fucking camper. You know the rules. Now you're gonna die." The apostle laughs and says, "You all have no idea, do you? What you started, it's already over for you. And it's just a matter of time before." Dave says, "Alright, that's enough. Someone shoot this fucking guy already." The apostle says, "I'd hate for you to see what we did to your leader." Tom, Dave, Miles, Roger, and Rivers all turn around in shock, and Tom looks furious. Then Tom starts beating his face in. He punches him over and over again as we see no one tells him to stop. They just let him do it. And Tom says, "What the fuck did you do? Why did you kill him? Tell me! Tell me!" Ashley says, "Because of what happened here before. I'm Lincoln's sister, and I've been with the apostles for far too long, and for most of the time I was with them, they lied to me about my brother. They killed him. Right in front of me. And the reason I'm here is to help all of you get back home." Tom looks angry and he pulls out his knife and starts stabbing the apostle in the face till there's nothing but mush. Tom stands there pissed and says, "We've done enough here. Everyone get the supplies at the warehouse. We need to get back now." As everyone just looks in shock, and Tom walks away as he falls to his knees, as he looks at his bloody hands and breaks down as he finds out his brother is gone. Later on, we see Tom is just sitting there, and Rivers walks up to him and says, "I'm so sorry, Tom." Tom just looks in shock and says, "He was everything to me. If it wasn't for Lincoln, I don't think I'd be right here right now. Dave wouldn't be here right now. All of us as a group, we wouldn't be here without him. He was like my fucking brother. Like the brother I never had. Rivers holds him, and Tom looks heartbroken and says, "I remember the last thing I said to him. I wanted to go out on this mission, but I told him to stay back. That I had this, you know? I fucking put him in that position." He starts shaking, and Rivers says, "Hey, Tom, listen to me. That is not on you, okay? And I don't want you ever to think that. And I don't want you to ever think it was, because it wasn't. You did the right thing. You did him a favor. And I know, wherever he is, he knows that." Tom breaks down as Snoop goes right up to them and sits on Tom's lap. As we can see, dogs sense when someone's not okay, as they sit there in sadness. Rebecca is going up to the rooftop as she sees several dead bodies, and Cullen is just laying in the corner covered in blood. And Rebecca says, "Oh my God, are you okay, sir?" Cullen says, I tried." Rebecca says, "I know." Dave and the others are getting all the things for the wall rebuild, and Miles says, "Is this even gonna matter if the apostles are around?" Dave looks pissed and says, Yes, it will." Colin and Rebecca walk up to them, and Colin says, "I just heard about your leader. I'm so sorry for your loss. To be the leader of you folks, I'm sure he was a damn good man." Roger says, "He was the best." Colin says, "Your truck is screwed. Although I have a truck and 2 other cars back at our little setup in the city. We can take those back to the community if you want." Dave says, "Okay." Later, we see everyone getting in the vehicles as Tom looks broken, and Dave walks up to him and says, "Maybe you were right what you said back there. Fairness is gone." As they all get back into the vehicles and ride out of the city for good, as they all leave their past behind them. We see them driving the roads as they pass over a huge overpass, and Tom says, "Pull over." They then get out, and we see Lincoln's motorcycle on the side of the road as Rivers walks up to it and says, "This is it." Ashley then says, "Haley brought it out here. She was fighting to get him back after Bishop took Luke and took him as hostage and as collateral. The apostles want Kingstonville by the end of the week." Dave says, "Yeah, well, that's not fucking happening." Ashley says, "Haley got Luke back, but I had to buy them enough time to get away. They're probably back home by now if I had to assume." Dave says, "All right, let's go." Rivers gets on the bike and starts driving it back as they all drive down the road to go home. As they drive away, we see someone holding a bloody sword. As they walk out of the woods, we see it's Bishop. He stands there covered in deadhead blood, and he says, "Eye for an eye, huh?